We're going to go ahead and go through the different types of chemical reactions. There are 5 types, just 4 on this slide. I'll go through the 5th one in a little bit. But here, the first one, synthesis, you can see you have one substance that is added to a second substance, and then you get a combination of the two. So this is basically making something or combining. The next one is decomposition. So here you can see you start with 2 things put together, and then they break apart. So this is breaking apart. And then single replacement, you have some substance that's typically an element combined with something that's a compound. So I'm going to put E here for element and C here for a compound of some sort. And then what happens is this element switches places with the element at the beginning of the compound, and then you get a new compound and then a new element by itself. And this is just 2 different ways to show exactly the same thing. So here you have something switching. Wow, my handwriting's terrible. Sorry, you guys. Switching. Here, double replacement, you can see you have 2 compounds. So a compound and another compound. You can see the beginning part, which would be your metal, is going to switch. Okay, so now A is combined with whatever was with B, and B is combined. So again, this is a switching type of reaction. So that's usually the easiest way to look at these, is that you have 2 things combining. You have, for the second one, 2 things breaking apart. Then you have an element in a compound where the metal switches place, and you have 2 compounds where, again, the metals switch places. So those are your 4 types of reactions from this slide. This is just in a little bit more detail. Again, 2 substances that are combining, known as also composition. So if you see composition reaction, it's the same thing. A lot of times when we have oxygens and metals together, that's a type of synthesis reaction. And then there's a couple examples here where you can see what those would be. Decomposition, again, 2 or more simpler substances or breaking down of something. Most of these are endothermic, which means energy is put into the system. And again, a couple examples here at the bottom where you can see one substance is breaking into 2 things. Single replacement, one element replaces a similar element in a compound. This is also called displacement. So if you see a single displacement reaction, same again. Many of these are in aqueous solutions. Aqueous just means they're dissolved in water. They don't take as much energy. And you have to have an element that's more active or more reactive than the other one for this to happen. And again, an example here, you've got a metal that's by itself as an element. You've got a compound here, and the 2 metals switch spots with each other. That's telling you that copper is more reactive than silver is. Double replacement then, you have 2 compounds again, forming 2 new compounds. Okay, a lot of times one's a precipitate. What that means is a solid is formed. Sometimes it's a gas that bubbles out, and sometimes it's just water that's formed, okay, just depending on the situation. Usually everything remains dissolved. So again, you can see here you've got a compound, another compound, and then the metal here switches places with the metal here, and they just flip-flop. The other type of reaction, or the 5th type of reaction, is a combustion reaction. Something combines with oxygen. Okay, when this happens, products are always going to be carbon dioxide and water. Okay, so CO2 and water. And you guys need to know that. That's not hard to remember. We see CO2 and water all the time. But anytime something burns, oxygen is going to be a reactant. And then your 2 products are going to be carbon dioxide and water. So you can see here, I don't know why this one's an exception to the rule, but most of the time you're going to have some kind of carbon-hydrogen combining with your oxygen, and you get carbon dioxide and water. This is an exception to the rule. We will not have anything like that. Okay. And that covers the 5 different types of